Hello, my name is Dalila Muthana, and this is my presentation for Microbiology Lecture Summer of 2023. My presentation is over pathogenicity and virulence. First, since pathogens are located everywhere in our lives, let me give you a breakdown of what we're going to go over. What is pathogenicity, and what does it entail? Also, what is virulence? Next, we're going to go over the modes of transmission, and then the ways to prevent the transmission. Well, let's start with what is pathogenicity? Well, in simple terms, it is the ability to produce disease in a host organism. This is caused by a pathogenic agent or a pathogen. Pathogens, in other words, is an organism that causes disease. This can be anything. It can range from algae, bacteria, fungi, viruses, certain parasites, and many other things. Things that it can infect a body and cause harm to the host that is infected. Now, these pathogens don't always lead to disease. The pathogen can cause a lot of harm in the host body even when it's dead, and even when it dies off. Now, there are 5 stages of pathogenesis that these pathogens go through. Exposure, where the host is exposed to said pathogen. Adhesion, where the pathogen adheres to the host. Invasion, where the pathogen invades the cells of the host. Infection, where the pathogen has successfully infected itself into the cell and is transmitting. And that is the last one, transmission, where it's replicating itself throughout the host and in hopes that it would transmit or itself out to the world. What is virulence? Well, virulence is the severity and the harmfulness of the disease itself. So this based on what the pathogen is doing inside the body. So when the pathogen has entered the host, what is it doing? And how does it make it such a harmful thing to the host itself? Not all pathogens are dangerous. There are certain things that it will depend on. Toxins, biology, surface adhesion. So depending on the pathogen itself, once it enters the host, if it's able to first enter the host, it has to pass through several lines of defense. It also has to go through, if it does, into the cells or not be destroyed by phagocytosis. As soon as it enters the cell successfully, it's trying to replicate itself. So that way it creates more pathogens, more of itself. Remember, it is trying to infect and spread. Next, we're going to talk about the route of transmission. The route of transmission talks about how these pathogens get around and how does it affect our body. So, we have direct or indirect physical contact. Well, that's pretty much self-explanatory. Direct, hand to hand, like a handshake. The germs are on your hand, you touch another person, and they touch themselves, the germs enter their body. Indirect physical contact is a little bit different. It's not really a contact with someone, but you are coming into contact with this pathogen where it's coming from a host somewhere, an infected host. So a surface, a table. So you are touching this table that someone else has touched, and the pathogen is on the table. And so you have unfortunately contacted this unlikely pathogen. Vector transmission. Now, vector transmission is pretty much refers to organisms that can transmit pathogens between humans or humans and animals. A perfect example of this is a mosquito. A mosquito comes down, bites the human, draws the blood. In the meantime, you're having all the cells in that blood, which possibly could be infected, goes off, bites an animal, bites another human, and as the mosquito bites that mammal or animal, the infected cells of the previous host goes on to the new host, and so spreads the pathogens around. Such an easy transmittance. Next, you have vehicle transmission. Vehicle transmission is basically other ways of transmitting the pathogens to hosts. You have droplets, which are usually water. So your saliva, when you sneeze and it comes out, the little droplets, your eyes, those kind of things are your droplets. Your airborne transmission. Airborne is breathing it in, everything through the air. It's pretty much self-explanatory. Fecal oral. Fecal oral is basically anything with fecal matter going into the host through the mouth. So let's say you buy produce from a store, and unfortunately this produce, you did not wash it beforehand, and it has traces of fecal matter on it. And if you ingest this, the pathogens that are on this unlikely food that you ate are now entering your body and infecting and finding its way all through your cells and giving you a nice little tummy ache. Another one is a healthcare associated infection. Unfortunately, this is a very common thing. This is an infection that you get from a hospital. When you go into a hospital, you expect a hospital to be clean and sanitary, but unfortunately, some precautions do go unseen. So if you go in, you may catch something from a nurse who didn't wash her hands, or a dirty bed, or you went in to use the restroom and the germs were on the sink or the door handle and you touched yourself. So unfortunately, a lot of people do catch pathogens through their healthcare. Sadly enough, it's funny, you go into a location to get better and sometimes you may come out sicker than you originally were. Now let's talk about ways to prevent the spread of transmission. There are many ways to prevent the spread of transmission as to not affect us or others. Vaccinations are one way. This helps our bodies form antibodies against viruses from replicating and becoming worse and possibly spreading to others. Staying home when sick. This can be a little difficult to do at times since we live in a very busy world, but being able to isolate and prevent the spread to others is very important. Covering your mouth when you cough or sneeze. You do not realize how fast and far pathogens go when an individual coughs and sneezes without covering their mouth. Sanitizing and disinfecting. Remembering to clean surfaces after uses or objects like doorknobs, countertops, computers, everyday things we touch will prevent the spread of pathogens. And lastly, one of the most important and easiest way to prevent the spread, hand washing. Being able to properly wash your hands after using the bathroom, coughing, sneezing, helps kill majority of the pathogens that are present on your skin and prevents the spread of the pathogens. So, to sum it up, pathogenicity is the potential ability to produce diseases. So pathogens have the ability to produce diseases within its host. Some do, some don't. Virulence is the disease-producing power of an organism. So this is the power that this organism has to infect your body and to cause major damage that it has, depending on its factors. Remember, there are many ways that pathogens can be transmitted. Simple touch, a sneeze, a cough, mosquitoes. Gotta love those suckers. And remember, there are very simple ways to prevent the spread. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. Use the bathroom, wash your hands. You're touching everything else, wash your hands. Or disinfect. Disinfect your counters, disinfect your tabletops. This is pretty much the easiest way. Being sick is not great at all, but being able to learn what makes us sick and find ways to prevent it, well, maybe there will be less sick days in the future. Thank you.